Hello world, Maura back with Asset Management Visionaries shaping tomorrow, and I have a super guest. Stay tuned. Hello world, Maura back here, Asset Management Visionaries shaping tomorrow. This is a podcast show with the Association of Asset Management Professionals. And you very well know that we're diving and getting deeper into asset management. Today, I have a special guest. Good afternoon, and so glad to see you. How have you been?
I've been wonderful, and you?
Very good. I want you to disclose the audience who you are, because we have Jon Mortensen with IFS and plenty to discuss, especially on asset management, enterprise asset management. Welcome.
Thank you. As Maura said, Jon Mortensen. I'm the Global CTO for EAM at IFS. My role in life is to make sure that everybody ends up with their moment of service. So making sure that our assets that our customers have are delivering service for their customers so that they can do what they're there to do.
And I'm always so impressed because I have the pleasure and love to be all over the world in many of the IFS offices. Today, visiting one of them, and the moment of service always captured my attention. Can you explain the audience a little bit? What is the culture of the moment of service?
So the moment of service for any organization is what they're delivering to their own customers. They make a promise to their customer that they're going to provide maybe water, maybe gas, maybe they're going to manufacture something. They make promises to their customers. They need to use assets to actually provide whatever it is they produce or give to their customers. And we need to provide them with the tools to make sure those assets are reliable and that they're producing as much uptime that they can do. But more importantly, that whatever it is they do with their assets align with their corporate objectives. And their corporate objectives somewhere is going to have somebody who is receiving something from them. And if they don't deliver what they need to do, then we are not providing what we need to provide to them to enable them to do it. So we're an enabler, a facilitator of their service to their customers. Does that make sense?
Of course, and the first thought that comes to me is what inspirational. IFS is always walking the walk, talking the talk, and getting with the client hand on hand. What is your favorite thing about working at IFS?
My favorite thing, this is a very difficult question. My favorite thing is actually visiting customers and seeing what they actually do. My friends say to me, how come you know so much about X, Y, and Z? I say, because I've been on customer sites that produce milk, that provide water, who manufacture food. I go and see how they do that. Because if I don't know how you do your job, then how on earth am I going to align what I have with what you do? So for me, the most exciting thing is getting out there and seeing how the world works. Because without understanding it, there's no fun. There's no moment of service. And that's what I enjoy about working for IFS, is being able to go out, visit customers, see how they do their job, what it is they do, and how things are done.
It makes a lot of sense because you need to understand what's going on out there so you can provide the insights. Earlier today, we were reviewing the aim of the organization, which, in my personal opinion, I articulate an important message. For you, what is the importance of companies understanding the aim?
To me, if a company doesn't understand why it exists, and if the people in it don't understand why the company exists and what the company is trying to achieve, then how do they align themselves and make sure what they do day in, day out actually aligns with what is required? It's one thing to say, my job is to put the nuts on the car, for the tires on the car, but why am I doing it? what happens if I don't do this? Because if I don't know that, I don't understand the value that I bring to that organization. I don't bring value to myself. I don't bring value to my organization. And consequently, I'm not really understanding the value I'm bringing to my company's customers.
That's so important, Jon. And you and I are so aligned with the alignment of companies, understanding the objective and the growth, not only professional, but personal. Now let's dive a little bit into your personal life. Tell us a little bit going back. How was your love about asset management? Where everything started?
I actually fell into asset management by accident. It wasn't where I was driven to go. I am a geomechanical engineer, which means what I don't know about tectonic plate movement and the way the earth is shaped is meaningless, but geomechanical can also mean world, how it works, how the world works. I moved into software first, and from software I ended up in asset management. And what asset management got me excited about was the assets that people maintain and they look after actually do make the world work. They actually have an impact every day that means that what I'm doing is meaningful. It means to me that for those companies out there that are doing things, I can actually see how what they produce changes other people's lives. And personally, that's a great driver for me, is this ability for people to understand how what they do impacts how the world works eventually.
That's amazing. That's impressive. What a background. And you have seen so many companies. What is your call to action to companies on enterprise asset management?
My call to action on them is go out and understand the value that the assets drive for your organization. Understand, in terms of asset management, the value that they bring to you rather than the cost they are to your production. It is not about costs when it comes to asset management, though you can reduce costs by understanding it properly. It's about what is the value of that asset working optimally to your business. So when you think about how much am I going to invest in an asset, how much am I going to invest in reliability, how much I'm going to invest in uptime, is going to have to me as a company. What is the value it brings back to me? And part of that is what is the value of production and the income you generate from that, the revenue you generate from that. What is the impact on that by not having an asset working properly? And why should I be trying to reduce the amount that I'm spending on making that asset work when I understand that I could be losing $1 million an hour by not having that work? So why shouldn't I be making decisions on the long term in terms of the asset rather than why should I be looking at it right now, getting it fixed as soon as possible rather than making the decision, should I be repairing, should I be reducing production, or should I be replacing that asset? I should be making long-term decisions. Whether they cost more money or less money is immaterial compared to what is the cost of production. So you need to look at the assets from the value perspective rather than just from the cost perspective.
It's an investment, it's a holistic picture. I recommend you very well know, you can listen to this interview as many times as you wish. This part you need to rewind, listen again, and please make your colleagues and your boss to listen to this important piece that Jon is advising us. Talking about your legacy on the work, tell us a little bit, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And what is the plan for you leaving a legacy to the world on your work?
On my work, well, actually, it's got very little to do with assets. I believe in my role, and the roles that I've had over the last 30 odd years, is facilitation. Facilitating the people who work for me and what their career goals are, and facilitating for customers what their objectives are. So my job is to make sure that everybody gets the value out of everybody else and everything they do. So from a legacy point of view, I'd like to think that when I retire, which I will do one day, though probably I should have done it 5 years ago like my younger sister, is that out there are hundreds of thousands of people who have their jobs because I helped them realize their value.
And 5 years from now, where do you envision yourself?
In 5 years' time from now, my actual ultimate objective is to be back in Australia. My mother turns 80 this year, and so my objective is in 5 years' time to be operating back out of Australia so I can be close to her. But as to what I do career-wise, it will probably move more into directorships rather than into the CTO role that I have today. So I have ambition in that direction, and I know a lot of people who have ambition to take over my role when the time comes.
That is so great. You're preparing the landscape on that succession planning. Why the world should be looking at IFS? Share with the audience why IFS.
IFS has been around for just over 40 years, and we started off with assets. Our founders were some Swedish students. They camped outside a nuclear power plant because there wasn't really anywhere else to be there, but they stayed on site and they set up the maintenance program and invested their time and energy into getting that nuclear plant working properly. Our whole company has been built out from there, and we have a different philosophy when it comes to software. So rather than providing niche software products that do various things like a niche product for CMMS or a niche product for finance or a niche product for supply chain or for project management, we've built that all on the same platform. And the differentiator that we have when it comes to that is you turn on and off these specialist areas of the software to meet your need. It enables our customers to be able to work out what asset management means to them and choose the appropriate components without having to do integration. So for an example, we had a company recently who's purchased our software, almost $50 million worth. And during the process of acquiring our software, they said, we're going to put the project on hold because we need to sort out a warehouse management problem. And our sales rep at the time went, well, gosh, you've asked us to provide supply chain with all the demand management and everything that goes with it. And you're looking at us for the maintenance and the consumption of all the materials that you do. And it's all going to go through your warehouse. Why wouldn't you use our warehouse management module? And they went, well, we didn't know you had one of those. And I said, well, we did tell you in the executive overview, but you didn't actually ask for any questions on that, so we don't have it. But if you use that component, then as soon as you turn that on, it's going to flow all the way through without having to do a huge integration with a new warehouse management solution. You're not going to have to do integration. You're not going to have to worry about data. Everything's going to be there. And they said, can we do that bit first? And we said, absolutely. We don't need to build the financials first and then do layer upon layer upon layer to get there. You can build out this asset management solution exactly the way you want to, in the order that you want to. And that composability is our stark differentiator in the marketplace. And whether that extends to field service management, if you're in utilities, whether it extends to project management for buildings, so companies like Multiplex use us for project management and construction, and it can hand that over to our asset management solution, again without integration, but because of that, without any loss of data. So all the warranties, all the stuff that you collect as you build is retained for use in the maintenance and operations phase, and therefore is available for you to understand when you do the decommissioning and move yourself back into the circular economy. So that's the big differentiator for us, is the ability to build out these composability components.
That is so great. And sustainability, I know, is big at IFS. You want to tell the world what you're doing on sustainability?
Well, gosh, we're doing things on two different levels here. First of all, our corporate objective is to be 100% sustainable in terms of emissions by 2025, which is next year. So we're getting pretty close and we're on track to do that.
Yeah.
The second thing, particularly for our European customers, is to help them be able to understand their scope 1, their scope 2, and eventually their scope 3 emissions, and be able to be able to track those and understand the causes and where they're coming from, and then provide them with the ability to take actions on them to help them reduce those things. It's one thing to be able to say to the European regulator, this is how much I'm emitting. But the reality is we're not reporting because we have a regulation. We're reporting because we want to reduce our emissions and become more sustainable. And as that goes around the globe, which it is doing right now, we have that framework that people can not just report on it, but get actionable insights out of that. And some of those actionable insights come out of the reliability of your asset and how well it's running. You know, you get a 100 horsepower motor and it's got a 1% phasing balance. You don't notice a problem, but it's consuming twice as much power, which is fine if you live in British Columbia and it's all hydro driven. But if you live in somewhere where we still use coal plants, or you're halfway on your journey towards renewable energies, that's costing you dollars, first of all, and secondly, it's costing you emissions. And so just by understanding that you have that imbalance and removing it, you've got your asset life cycle extended, because that can also reduce the life cycle of that asset, but you're also reducing the emissions that are associated with it, and so on and so forth. So again, it's a full circular argument that comes back to asset reliability at the end. But you've got to know what your problem is, you've got to know how much you're emitting, you've got to have a desire to reduce that, and then you want to know, how do I reduce that? And by knowing where they come from, you're actually creating that path of sight, or that line of sight.
Definitely, Jon, and in that knowing digitalization play a big role. Tell the audience about digitalization and how IFS is using it to continue advancing enterprise asset management.
Sorry, could you just repeat that for me again?
Yeah, digitalization. Digitalization in general, digital twins or digital Internet of Things, machine learning.
Yes. So it's actually a tricky question to answer, but if I think of it first of all in terms of utilization, understanding what could happen to that asset and when it's going to not produce is key to extending utilization, because utilization is how much you use that, and being able to use that 100% of the time is the ultimate objective. So if you wait for it to break, or you wait to find out how it's going to react to what you're doing, you end up in this situation where you're going to lose utilization time. So by being able to predict a failure, or to run a what-if scenario on the impact of changes on that asset, are going to make a huge difference to whether that asset is the right asset to have in place and how well I get to utilize that asset. I'm not sure if I've answered your question there, but I was going down hopefully the right path.
And what about digital, on the digital world? Any invitation to the companies on the digitalization part?
Well, the digitalization part is the core to predictability. So as we look at the world from a digitalization perspective, understanding first of all that we can get information from our assets. Most assets we have today talk to us. What we often don't do is listen to them. So they're talking away sort of like a triffid, and it's either going to kill us or we're going to make use of it. If we can take that information in and understand what that information means and understand what normal is, then we're in a situation where we can actually understand the anomalies that are occurring. If we understand the anomalies and we can map that to the problem codes that we might have for that, the cause codes that are associated with that, essentially if we do it to failure modes and failure causes, etc., we're doing a FMECA analysis eventually. But that FMECA analysis enables us to go from predicting a failure and saying it's going to happen sometime in 4 weeks' time, to being able to say, this is what's most likely going to cause it because we recognize this pattern. If I understand that, then I can link that to what my learnings have been through the FAMICA process. And that enables me to move to prescriptive maintenance. So if I understand the prescriptive maintenance, I can then get my supply chain component working so that I can plan when it's going to come down at the point where it's going to cause least impact to production. I'm going to be understand how that's going to impact utilization. And I'm going to be able to understand how I'm going to bring all the bits and pieces together so when I do something with it and I make that repair versus replace versus reduce production decision, I'm also going to be able to understand the costs that are associated with it. So that digitalization journey is really, really important. But it's not the end of the journey there, because when I send somebody out to actually do that work, I need them to come back and tell me that, yes, I got it right, or no, I didn't get it right. I need that feedback loop to come in here because I must learn. Every time I do something, I must learn and change or adapt my algorithms, etc., to that learning exercise so that I get better and better and better at it. The moment you say, I've got it all sorted, I'm going to sit back, that's the end of it. You're doing yourself a disservice because we are changing all the time, we are learning all the time, and if we don't do something with that learning, then how are we ever going to grow?
That is right. I'm taking so many classes, and what I promised myself, Maura, just take one idea. One idea that you activate makes a difference. To your point, that you need to utilize what you're learning. I can stay with you, Jon, all day. You have so much knowledge, but now we are going to have, for sure, a second part with you, as there is so much more that we want to reveal from Jon and IFS. But at this time, any final call to action to the audience that is listening?
I'll go back to what I said earlier. Look at your assets in terms of the value they bring to your organization, not as the cost to your organization of producing a good. Understand why those assets are operating the way they are, and understand what it is that drives the success of your production, and make sure that in your organization, everybody from the top down aligns with your mission and your vision, and every decision you make aligns with what you're trying to achieve, and you will always be successful.
Thank you so much. That's a great call to action, and it's continuously, and repetition is key. Thank you again one more time for being here today with Asset Management Visionaries Shaping Tomorrow. For these and more interviews, remember to subscribe. I'll see you soon, and all the best to you.